Good morning. We're so happy to have Terri with us today, and she's going to be teaching us about passion flowers. I told her that we call them maypops in Georgia, but she has a lovely display here of the passion flowers beginning to bloom, and we're looking forward to this. So good morning and welcome.
Hi there. Thank you, Susan, and thank you, Anna, also for inviting me to be here. Like she said, my name is Terri Koenig, and I'm from Maryland. I've been China painting since 1976. I was 16 years old, had my first ceramic class in the 3rd grade, but this is my first Zoom, so fingers crossed we do okay. I don't know how many people are familiar with the passion flower. Susan said in Georgia they just grow wild. Here in Maryland, I actually had to plant several times to try and get the plant to take, and then finally it did, and now it's growing all over the place. It is a vine, and it grows along the fences. I got them growing over the trees. They come up in the yard, but they don't seem to be very evasive and I guess they get all over the place, but if I pluck it out, it does go away. I will say this too, when I open up my back door, all I can smell is the passion flower. It just smells, the smell of this plant is just beautiful. The bees love it. They get in there and they get, I don't know if you can see it too well here, but they circle around underneath all these flower parts, and they'll start out in the daytime, and then at nighttime they're still there. So we think that maybe they're drunk, that they've had so much pollen that they just fall asleep with it, and then they disappear the next day or whatever. But it's just a big bumblebee attraction. So anytime I'm teaching a class, I feel like everybody needs to know the plant. Like, I don't want you to just take a picture and say, well, I'm just going to paint with that picture. I think you really need to study it a little bit to find out more about it. I had signed up July because our passion flower plants bloom crazy this time of year. And today I go out there and everybody is just opening up. So I don't have a full-blown passion flower to show you. But I do have a good picture. So if you see this picture, this is what the flower looks like when it's in full bloom. And I think it's really important that you know we have to learn these parts up here. Usually the flower parts are down inside. They're kind of hidden in the plant, but in the passion flower, they're out there on full display. It has 5 sepals and 5.
Terri, could
Yes.
you hold that picture a little closer for people to see?
How's that?
That's good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so let me see if I can show you this a little nicer here. We have, so we got the petals and the sepals. These things are called filaments. They're just thread-like fibers. They're just little strings that are kind of ripply. Then we have the anthers. That's these yellow things that are hanging down the lowest. That is where the pollen is. That's why the bees gather under there. The bees get all hung up under there because that's where all the pollen is. Then we have this round oval here. That is the ovary. And then on top of here, we have the stigma. And this is where it's sticky at to receive the pollen. So there's a lot of little parts there. Normally when we're painting, we don't have to worry about all that. But with this plant, yes, you do, because it's for everybody to see. So I always say that even if you are a stylized painter, I think you still need to know all this. If you don't understand your plant, you can't even adjust it and make it your own until you know the real. Okay, so now as far as the leaf, I do have a leaf here. It's getting a little swivelly. So this leaf is it's called a palmate. All the veins come from this point and then travel out. Of course, the back side is lighter, as you can see there. So when you're painting that, that's something that you might want to take into consideration. And the veins are also lighter. So a lot of times when I do paint the leaves, I will use a liner brush and wipe out those veins. If you use a wipeout tool, then a lot of times it just takes you down to white and it's a little too, you've lost all your paint buildups. Okay, so there's my leaf. The way it grows up the bud is kind of interesting. So this is my vine. This looks like somebody got with the weed whacker. And so what happens here? I got a better picture to show you this when whacked. When this flower grows, you have all your buds in a line and then a flower. So this right now, all my plants out there are like here, just getting ready to open. They're there. But you can see how they come along. What you have is your main vein. This is your main vein. The main strand of the vine, the main vine. This is your vine. It's good for a design line. That vine line is good for to make a C or an S or whatever kind of design you want to have. But so this joint, it goes off here, has a leaf. From that same point, we have a flower. And from that same point, we also have a tendril. So that leaf is on this side. As it goes up, this leaf is on the other side, but we have the same thing. We have the leaf, we have the tendril, we have a bud or a flower. It's kind of hard to see that on here on my poor sick little vine here, but here's my tendril, my leaf, and my bud on the right side. Now it's on the left side, it's on the right side. So when you're painting this, you probably would not, maybe you wouldn't show that. I am trying it here to see if it would be interesting. I'm trying to see if that'll look okay doing that. But when you actually look out there at the plant, it's really just all these green leaves. So your background's probably going to be just full of leaves, all different shapes and going in all different directions, curled up, dried up. And then you have the pops of flowers that are in there. Okay, so I guess we can start painting. You might have a little bit of idea what the passion flower is a little bit more. I'm going to paint on this plate here. I got a couple of different ones here. So I do want to say, I don't think you really need to trace these on, because it's basically a circle. So when I draw this flower on, I see these dark spots here, these little dark spots that go around there. And that's where I start my sketch. So if I'm doing it flat, of course, we're going to see the complete circle. If it's hanging to the side, like this one, we may not see any of that dark circle at all. It might be just like this. And then from there, you can start building your body parts. That's a little bit easier than having to go ahead.
Terry, you need to hold it just a little closer. It's hard to see. There, thank you.
Okay, so this is showing a full on. If I was to sketch this flower, that would be full on. This would be a side view, maybe even more of a little angle here. And then from there comes all of our flower parts. And as far as the leaf, simple to draw. It's a palmate, so you can do your center vein and then your two sides. And then you would fatten them up a little bit. So then you have your leaf sketch, which may or may not be easier than tracing, but just to show you. Okay, so back to the painting. I was originally going to do the flat one, but you can't see the body parts as well. So I'm going to go over to the one that kind of looks like this. This is the first fire fired. So this will be the painting steps for the first fire. Sorry, let me get my brush a little bit cleaner. So
Sorry, Terry, but you know, it's hard to see the drawings on the plate unless you hold it closer.
this here,
Yeah, see, I can hardly see them. I don't know about anybody else. I'm the only one talking here. Can everybody see it? Nobody's saying anything. I can't see the drawing. You said that we're going to be painting.
okay,
Okay, that's better. That was better. Just hold it up close where there's, because no reflected light. That's better. Thank you.
where we'll go. All righty, so we're going to come over here. Yeah, it is I got ants from the plant. So I'm going to use this color. I call it light plum. I didn't have a color that I really wanted, so I used royal violet, pretty pink, and some white to make this color. I'm going to paint them all with this light plum. So I'm blocking in my color. All of the brush strokes. So right here, this is the middle of the flower. This is where everything is joined in the back. Like looking at the back of this bud right here, everything's joined there. So I always think of the brush strokes are all going to be going to that part in the back, right there. Maybe sometimes I might even add a little blue to it. Depending on the lighting, whether the sun's on it or not, might make it look purpler. I think on the days after its first bloom, I think it gets a little bit darker too. So let me go ahead and block this color in. And they're very light and airy, so they have movement. So I'm going to block in my color. And I don't know if you're new to painting or not, but I've always been told inside, you load your color, inside corner of the brush, always paint towards you. Inside corner of the brush, and if I follow those brush strokes through, it would take me to the back side of that flower. Put these on. color on.
Putting the color on the petals too.
I'm putting the same color on everything, the petals and the sepals. So right now they all have light plum, maybe sometimes pink, maybe sometimes some blue mixed in. However, the sepals, they do have a little tinge of green. So now I'm going to decide who's a sepal and who's a petal. And I'm going to take a touch of my chartreuse and a little bit of like greener green. And I'm going to lay it right on top of, here. One looks like a sepal. I'm not going to mix it in. I'm not going to go with 1,000 little China pear strokes. Just one nice flip of green. Okay, so there's my petal, my sepal, my petal, my sepal. And my sepal over here. And again, all I did was I just set that green right on top of there. There are 5 sepals, 5 of the petals, but we're not going to see them because they're hanging back on this flower. This one laying flat, like flat Stanley sitting there, that one you would see all 10. Okay. So now I know that these 3 are my sepals, and I got to look at how I can sometimes. This is the real flower, and you're seeing the sepals. When it opens up, it all falls back. All of this falls back, and inside of there is your petal. There's my little petal there. So these sepals are green on the back. When you look at them from the side, you catch some green, and then it has this little hook tongue on there. So I'm gonna, when I look at this, it's kind of curved up. So probably there's going to be a little bit of green showing under here. So I can come along here. And basically that is the back maybe showing a little bit. I never thought about how light of a flower these are to show up on a zoom. You know, it's not a big colorful flower to show up as well as some things would be. And then this one, I might even see that little hook. There's my other sepal. Maybe I'll see a little bit of green down here. Maybe I'll see a little bit of green here. Okay, so now I have my petals and my sepals on. So now my next step is I'm going to start in here. This middle, it's very strong ruby color. So this is my strong ruby color here. And then if you could see the picture here, this is where we're going. We're going right here, right now, because that's where everything joins right there. That's like the main hub. If you get that right, then everything will kind of join in. So it's all those filaments in there. It's like a mohawk, very short little brush strokes in ruby. So here's my little thing here. I'm a little oily. If I had painted drier, then I would have better strokes there. Then I can take my wipeout tool and actually accent a little bit more, show that ruby center in there being the texture. All that texture needs to go in there. Okay. Now, On my flowers, this is one of my flowers here. This is white. This is all white in there. And then these are strings. These are all these little filaments, everywhere. This is just string, 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 string. That string comes out, and that string has a little dark spot on it. Then it has another little dark spot on it. Then it fades out into purple, white, dark spot, purple. However, to be able to show all that texture and stuff inside of there, all these little, we have to put some color in. So I'm going to use my light purple, just so I have some color here. I have to have something in there to wipe out in. Okay, got a little bit of color in there. And now I'm going to go ahead and put in those dark spots. They're not really a complete line all the way around. It's kind of dibby dab there. I'm using the ruby and the royal violet. This is just a dark spot on one of the filaments. And then there is a smaller little dark spot below it. Ah, that's way too dark. And this, you can see that why I did that circle. That circle might make more sense. There's my little dark spot for my second layer. And these are the ones that grow in my yard. Maybe yours are different. Some of them are even in green. Okay, so now I've got my color here, and I'm going to use my pointed tool here, and I'm going to wipe out the filaments. These are the real things. These are the filaments here, bugs and all. These here, you can see how they're just very curly on the ends. But as they do, this will calm down and it unfurls itself down a little bit more so that you get more of that kind of look. If you look in there, some are very, very light, maybe white, maybe very light purple. And that's the ones we're mainly putting in right now. So I'm going to use this little red one, this little red wipeout tool. And just like the hands on a clock or the spokes on a wheel, all these filaments come from this ruby spot. And then they come on out here. If I don't put this in now, I won't be able to get it later. So I have to get all these in. Generally, it's better if you do all your flowers and save your background. I could have put background in first and then wiped these out into my background. So if I had background on here, I would then have to go in there and wipe out. This one was painted having some background behind it. This is the first fire with a background. For our class to do it today, I'm doing a first fire without a background. So you can see where I had to wipe out into the background as well. These are my light filaments being wiped out into the background.
So if we're doing the flowers first, then when we put the background in, we wipe the filaments out further. Okay, just being clear. Thanks.
And sometimes you have to go back and look for them. like where did, after you put the background in, well, I've lost my my filaments, which happened here. So I had put my background on. This has now got a second coat of background on, and I had to go back in and find them and then re-wipe them out. It's kind of tricky, like what to do there. So I'm going to continue. I'm going to wipe all this out. And it is kind of humpy in there. I don't know, I guess because it's all that stuff back there, but this kind of sits up a little, kind of a little indented in there. And then this kind of sticks up. It's raised up just a little bit higher. Maybe this is too much flower information. I don't know. But when I'm painting, I got that picture there, trying to find out all these things about them. You can't know enough. Now, if I was being a real good painter, I might sit there and really think about how I'm wiping these out. Sometimes you have a whole bunch of them that'll have the same wipe out. I mean, the same shape, like they go doo doo doo, and the next one have the same little doo doo doo, exact same thing. Okay. Okay, so there is that. Looks kind of weird, but. And when you're going to paint these, hopefully somebody's going to paint them. Vary how they sit. Sometimes you have them sideways, you have them like this, you have the back view. This is a good view of the sepals and petals from the back and how the vine is attached to the back of it. And this one, look how it's just tucked in there. So it's just, they're just so unusual. They're very cool. Alrighty, so now we get into this. I'm using chartreuse again. I'm going to paint this like this little stick. I don't know what else to call it. It's a little, it's what everything's connected to. This little line here connects to the anthers, connects to the ovary, connects to the stigma. So that's chartreuse. Here's my ovary. That's chartreuse. Maybe I'm going to put some other green in there. There could even been some yellow on this little ovary thing. And I don't have yellow. Can you get me some yellow? I'm sorry. Sorry, guys. So then here's my stigma. The stigma is, I'm leaving the green on my brush, and I'm going to go in there and paint this. That thing comes right out of the top there. Comes right out of the top of the ovary. It has a little heavy spot on the end, and then it comes in. Has a little heavy spot on the end, and then it comes in. There's 3 of these. And then, so again, the stigma, that is where the stickiness is. Pollen gets hung up in there. And now we're going to put some anthers on. I have my yellow. Well, if I can grab it. Okay. I cleaned my palette real good yesterday, and then I said, well, I don't need all these palette colors to take up the space. Well, I left one out. Hopefully that's the only one. Okay, so my anthers are here. They're kind of crowded in this photograph. The anthers are where the pollen is. This is why the bees hang out. The bees hang out under here. They hang out under the anthers right there at that stick. And then there's a little green hook on the top that connects it to the ovary here. Kind of comes on top. Okay, so this would be the first fire of this flower. And like I said, you could have put your background in. If you put your background, you could put your background in now, but now you got all this stuff to work around. And then you'd have to remember to put in all your wipeouts in the back, through the background painting. So I want to show you what I have done for my backgrounds. This one here, we airbrushed this. This was a class project. Every January we do a class project where the girls all do the same thing. And there was definitely a lot of moaning about the passion flower. So this has got the airbrush background, and you can probably see better how all these filaments were then gone back and painted over top. And the bees, our little flower parts sitting out on the top. And there's that one. This one here, we did the flow technique that is popular, and it's a rounded vase, so we taped off the side, and then did the flow technique on this side, and then then we did this side, and everything was painted. All the flowers, all the leaves, everything was painted. Then it was red resist. And then all the filaments were painted on top of the luster, as you can see here. And you can see how my vine is giving me my design line coming on up. I got my flower, I got my leaf, my bud, my tendril. Here's a bud looking at you, getting ready to open. One that's gonna open. Okay, that's those two ways. And then there's traditional. So I don't know if there's going to be a lot of flash on this, but this is, I guess you could say, just traditional China painting. Celeste always said you need a little spice in your work. So I got my red Tabasco sauce. She said if you want a real hot piece of work, then you put a lot of spice in. If you just want a little spice, but that poppy red with the purple really does make a difference. It just gives it some pizzazz. When I'm doing something on my own without, just making some picture up, I always refer to this book. This one was very helpful in creating the focal point and focal area where you divide it by 4s, and you have to read it in the book. It's good to know. And then you can find your focal point. So I got my P right there. Usually
Hey, Terry, it might be a good idea to tell everybody the name of the book and who wrote it.
I will bring that back up. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No. Usually you have some life in there, something, a person or animal or something is in there. And then they also teach you the passage of how to flow the eye through the painting, that sort of thing. All these things are taught in this book. And yes, let me show you what it is. It is the 7 keys to painting. It's been talked about in China Painter Land before, and I have found it to be pretty good. The only drawback I have is, you know, a lot of times they are putting white in, so, and we don't have white, so you have to always think to leave your white from the beginning. They help you with color, the color wheel, and all that kind of stuff. So I always pull this out and see what I can use from it to make my original painting a little bit better. So that's traditional. We have the airbrush and the regular. Okay, so that shows us different background ways. I think we're ready for our next fire. While I got the whole book thing going on, Martin Johnson he's well known for his magnolias, but I don't think he gets much credit for the passion flowers. He does do the passion flower. It's a little bit different looking than the ones I have grown outside here, but it makes for a very interesting painting. Just thought I'd show you that. You don't see passion flowers in art too often, so I was glad to see he had done that. I didn't show you a leaf. So I'm going to sketch my leaf, just like I showed you before. I know just where the rest of it goes. It's kind of rounded in there. Hopefully those black lines make it easier to see. There's my leaf. So the first coat, as you can see here, my first coat is really just light shades of the chartreuse, maybe some shading green. And I'll leave areas to put other colors because I like to put a lot of reflected light, a lot of reflected color into my leaves. Here's one that's been second fired. So let me get my chartreuse out of here. Maybe I'll just leave some of that color from the flower. Chartreuse. I'm going to add shaded brush stroke. You know, you're supposed to go like this and work that paint into the brush. Get my shaded stroke. Okay, so everything, just like that flower, everything's coming from there. This leaf, everything's coming from here. So I'm going to take my brush strokes and I'm going to pull that way. Making sure that we leave space for the white or light for light. Anything you want to have lighter. Okay, let's pull it in, pull it in, pull it in. And basically it's just to remind me, it's just something to hold the leaf in place till I come back and then really do some color on it. Whoop. Lock my color in. Lock my color in. I mean, you could go ahead and paint these full on if you wanted to. But if you like doing it in this method, you can. You know, if you like adding a little bit of color at a time. Some people are, I find, are still a little afraid to put too much color on. So you could do it in that manner. Just put your full greens on, wipe it out, and go for it. One fire. But sometimes I'm not really sure where I'm heading. If I'm going to want purple leaves, if I'm going to want more shadow in this area or that area. But like what they say, without a plan to fail. Sometimes it just progresses. You can't see it because I got those big black lines in there, but I'm going to use this brush to wipe out those main veins. Which this one just doesn't seem to be digging with too well. There we go. You can't see it. You'll never see it. It's so light on there that you probably never be able to see it. I will also come in here and wipe these out. And that color there is probably dark enough that you can see those veins. All right, so I got, and that's it. Just, you can see here on my first fire, I've just got all that put in, background and all. So that's our leaf. Now we can go back in and do the second coat on the flower. You can pretty much put all the color on the flower in the first coat. I've done it many times, but I don't know. Today I'm doing multiples. So depending on how you paint, if you want to do it in one fire or not. The ruby usually needs a second fire. And the flower parts need some accents a little bit, usually on the second fire. But, so I'm going to go back to my light plum. And I'm going to add a little bit of shadow up here. And that's because, I don't know, it's closer to that center. Looks like it needs it. Maybe I'll pull some of that out just to give it so it's not quite so flat. Just like you would in any flower. Come in here, maybe give a little bit more color. A little bit more color. A little bit more color. A little bit color there. Okay. So if I was going to have a white background and nothing else, I would probably do my filaments now. So to do the filaments, I'm going to take the dark purple. I'm going to take dark purple. I think I'm going to take some ruby as well, just to mix it up a little bit with anise oil. Dark ruby, anise oil. I mean, this is the part that really makes that flower. Sorry, if I pre-mixed it, it would have been all dried up. Okay, so I'll take my pen and actually I feel better if I put that center in. I just feel like I got to put that ruby center in again. Let me get that in. Going back in, doing straight up and down strokes, my little mohawk haircut in there. Now we can do these things. So here's the thing. In the center, it's white. But as it comes out, they become colorful. It's like from that dark spot on, then they pick up color. For the most part, the inside's white. So I can come in here. I've got my other ones that are here already wiped out. It takes patience. Over and over. This is on its side, but you might get a little kick of them. You just see a little piece of it here. A little piece and a little piece. And yes, I'm just alternating. For the most part, they do not go past the flower, but they appear to when you see them out here. Sometimes I guess some of them are hanging more than others. So again, you have to remember these are the filaments, and they're just like a fibrous thread. I guess they're all curled up like that from being stuck inside that pod. So the interesting thing is, at the end of the year, I'm going back and putting those darker areas on the filament. In the wintertime, it gets these things that they look like limes, but they're not. They get these pretty big pods. Unfortunately, I did not have any pods to show you today. And inside is like air and I don't know, but the seeds are in there. So we throw them all over the yard. Well, in the garden, along the fence and stuff. I don't know if they come back, I guess they come back that way versus from the root. It's a lot of work to put all these little doohickeys on here. And of course my pen is acting up. So I'm going back again and getting those dark areas. These dark spots are on an individual thread. It's not like the flower has turned purple in there. Well, I guess kind of has. The filaments have this little dark spot on them. When you're painting them, remember to think of the bees. Because they're always on them. So it wouldn't seem right to do a passion flower unless you have bees. Okay, so you get the idea. And you get the idea. Look how many there are. There's quite a few. So now I might go up in here to my to these flower parts. So basically I've just painted in yellow. You could shade them. I'm going to shade that a little bit. Under here, get some color on the underneath. And that little stick thing, I really don't know what, that's just the base of the ovary. I think I might come in here with my pen and accent that. So that you can see it's there a little bit better. And maybe pull a couple of, even though it's white in there, maybe just to show the direction that there's something, that these threads are really in there. Oh, my pen, right? We'll just show a little bit of things going on in there. Let me go to my other ones. My other little anthers. Put a little color under them. Just anything to shade them. A little bit of shading. Some shading, some shading. And that ovary seems to be really sticking out there. Really shows in this picture, so let's bring it out. It up a little bit. Okay, so now this is the stigma part, and it's got purple dots on it. So on the first fire, I did not put them in. I don't want them to look like purple dots though. Just kind of model that purple in there. Okay. Pull that anther out a little bit. And so that would be the second fire. On this one, this was the first fire, like I said, with background. So if I had a background, here's this one has a second fire with, this is second fire with background. That was first fire. So second fire with background, then that's with white with background. Same thing. Of course, if you got a whole bunch of background, you might have to use, you know, a stronger color, or just remember to keep your background under the filaments a little bit lighter than maybe you want to. And let me tell you, you do not want to put your background on and have to re-wipe these things out. And so on and so forth. Here's the leaf. We can do a second coat on that. Just like traditional, every other trot painting. You get some purple under the flower, so I want to put a little shadow here. Here's my purple. Purple makes a good shadow color. And I got the shading green, they mix together so nice. And so if I go, it's not gonna paint over. Oh, it does paint over there. So I could continue on with this and then do my leaves. Sorry, I had them. And let's put some shadows in. Maybe this is my. Maybe I'll put even a little pink in there. But I am at the first coat might be a lot of green, but the next time I'm going to mix it up with whatever I got, whatever I'm painting this flower with, I'll add it to the leaf. It makes for a more interesting leaf. Even though in the garden they are growing just like one monotonous green thing. When we're painting, we can take that artistic license to do it our way. So that kind of gives you an idea of maybe the second coat. Maybe I would put green in. I have to step back and look and see what it needs. I have to remember how green they really are. Okay, I think that's it. I think I covered all my bases here. All the veins have been, all this is put on. I think we're good.
Terry,
Yes,
I sent you a message, but I don't think you got it. Now, you used your pen and ink for that, not, I mean, a pen and a pen, not a paintbrush for the filaments. Is that right? In the dark?
exactly.
Yeah, I think you did say pen, but I wasn't clear.
You could probably get in there with a nice fine point. Let's see if I got one here. So I'm working in my pen oil. It might save a lot of time if I did it this way, but it's not the same.
One other thing, if you could tell me, you mixed, what'd you say you used to get your plum? You used white and purple, white and grape, and what?
It was white, pretty pink, and royal violet. Pretty pink is a color that Norma Golick made 100 years ago, and I have pounds of it because I love her paint. And it's
So
white,
so wait a minute, white, pretty pink, and what else? Sorry.
I'm sorry, it's royal violet, pretty pink, and white.
Okay, thank you.
And it makes a nice purple.
Yeah, it does. Looks nice.
Yes. The pink is not a high gold content pink. It's like a bluish pink. It's not like shell pink or one of those.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for joining me.
Did anyone else have any questions? Okay, well, thank you very, very much for a great presentation.
Thank you.
And we will all enjoy watching this again on the Zoom app on the iPad page, because he gave us so much information we're going to really enjoy. Okay, Brenda, I need you back on here to say something, because it's
It's unmuted. Okay, good.
all right. Well, I'm going to start the recording now.